My aunt contested my grandma's will, claiming I'd manipulated her. I said nothing in court. Then my lawyer played the secret voicemails of her abusing grandma. The judge was silent for a full minute, and then, I am a 28-year-old male sitting in what is legally my house. The only sound is the of the refrigerator my grandma bought back in 1998. It's a sound I've known my whole life. A sound I connect with safety, with freshly baked cookies, and with the woman who was more of a parent to me than anyone else. That woman, my grandma, Catherine, died 2 months ago. She was 84, sharp as a tack right up to the end, but her body, it just gave out. It was peaceful. I held her hand. It was the saddest and most profound moment of my entire life. The funeral was a production. All of it curated by my Aunt Christine. She's 55, and she is a master of optics. She played the part of the grieving daughter perfectly. Draped in tasteful black, accepting condolences with this practiced sorrowful nod. She flew in from out of state, of course. That was her signature move. Flying in for holidays and birthdays for the last 20 years, staying just long enough for a photo op, and to remind Grandma that the guest room needed updating. I, on the other hand, was the one who actually lived here. It wasn't supposed to be permanent. I moved back to the city 5 years ago and was just crashing here temporarily. But then Grandma's health started to slide. Nothing major at first, just little things. Trouble with the stairs, forgetting her pills. So I stayed. I did the grocery runs, the doctor's appointments, the lovely job of unclogging drains. We'd watch old movies together. I'd listen to her tell stories about growing up during the war. We were a team. It was never a burden. It was just life. I remember this one time about a year ago. She saw me stressing out over some drama Christine had started. Grandma just patted my hand, then she tapped her old clunky smartphone sitting on the end table beside her. "Don't you worry about her," she said, and she had this strange hard look in her eye. "People eventually show you exactly who they are. You just have to be willing to look." I didn't get it then. I really get it now. The will reading was a week after the funeral in a sterile lawyer's office. It was just me, Christine, and her husband Adam, who perpetually looks unimpressed with everything. The lawyer, Mr. Davies, a kind but no-nonsense guy Grandma had known for ages, read the will. It was simple. A few heirlooms and a modest sum of money went to Christine. And the house, this 3-bedroom suburban house that my grandfather built with his own hands, it went to me. All of it. Along with the rest of her state, the silence in that room was thick enough to choke on. I didn't react. I had a feeling this was coming. Grandma had told me in her own way. "This house needs someone who loves it," she'd say, looking right at me. Christine's face went through about 5 emotions in 3 seconds. Confusion, disbelief, and then this pale, tight-lipped fury. "That's not possible," she said. Her voice was a low tremor. "There has to be a mistake." Davies just adjusted his glasses. "The will is quite clear, Christine. Catherine was of sound mind and body when she made these changes 18 months ago." Christine's eyes swiveled to me. It felt like being pinned by a laser. "You," she said. "You did this." I just looked at her, said nothing. "You got into her head." She hissed, her voice climbing. "A poor, lonely old woman. You took advantage of her. You manipulated her." 2 weeks later, just like I knew it would happen, I was served. She was formally contesting the will. The grounds undue influence. My friends are all telling me to get angry, to fight back, but I'm not angry. Not in a hot way. The anger is there, but it's cold. It's like my brain just flipped a switch. The messy emotions shut down and everything became just logic. Cold logic. My grandma taught me how to play chess in this very living room, and she taught me you don't win by throwing the pieces across the board. You win by seeing the whole game, by waiting for your opponent to make a mistake. Christine thinks this is a shouting match over a house. She has no idea what game we're actually playing. Update 1. It's been 3 months. The legal gears are grinding slowly and expensively. And Christine, she's launched a full-scale emotional warfare campaign. She is a master of the whisper network. Cousins who haven't spoken to me in years are suddenly calling just to tell me they're disappointed. They've all heard Christine's story. How I swooped in, took advantage of a vulnerable woman, and cut everyone else out. It's death by 1,000 cuts. Last month, we had to do a mandatory mediation session. It was a complete disaster. We're all sitting in this conference room that smells like stale coffee in desperation. Christine starts, her voice already thick with fake tears. "Benjamin, honey." She begins looking right at me. "I love you. But what you did to my mother, to our family, it was wrong." She was confused. She wasn't the same woman at the end. She told me she was scared that you were handling her finances. She wasn't capable of making a decision like that. The gaslighting was incredible. So smooth, so practiced. She actually seemed to believe it, and then came the compromise. I could keep a small percentage of the estate, but the house would go to her as it should have. She even offered magnanimously that I could live there for a reasonable rent. I just looked at her and I said, "No. We'll see you in court." The fallout was immediate. The family group chat exploded. I was arrogant, greedy, heartless. The loneliness of this fight, that's the hardest part. I'm not gonna lie, there were a few nights where I just sat here in the dark, wondering if I should just give her the damn house. Just to make it all stop. But then I'd remember what Grandma said, tapping her phone. People eventually show you exactly who they are. It felt like a long shot, but I had to look. The next day, I dug out her old phone from a box of her things. I spent hours backing up photos, and then I just started searching. I didn't even know what I was looking for. But finally, I found the default audio recording app, and inside a folder. It wasn't labeled evidence or anything. It was just a default folder with a bunch of dates. But inside were dozens of audio files, voicemails she had manually recorded right off the speakerphone. My heart started pounding. I clicked on the first one. It was Christine's voice, but not the soft concerned voice from mediation. This one was sharp, impatient. "Mom, pick up. I know you're there. That check you sent bounced. Do you know how embarrassing that is? I need you to go to the bank and fix it today." I clicked another. "Why haven't you called me back? I told you I needed that money for the property taxes. Is Benjamin there? Did he tell you not to send it? I swear to God, Mom, if you let that boy get between us." My blood ran cold. I sat there for an hour just listening. It was a chronicle of abuse, demands for money, guilt trips, threats, and then I found the one. The one that made me feel physically sick. It was from the week after Grandma changed her will. Christine's voice was a low, terrifying snarl. "I just spoke to Mr. Davies. What did you do? After everything I have done for you, you cut me out. For him. For a boy who has done nothing with his life. You are a selfish, foolish old woman. You will regret this." There was a pause, and then I could hear my grandma's shaky voice so quiet. "He loves me, Christine. He's here." Christine just laughed. A short, ugly sound. "He loves your house. You're gonna die alone in that house, and I won't be there. Remember that." Click. She hadn't just saved them. She recorded them methodically. She wasn't a frail victim. She was building a case from her armchair. The next morning, I took the phone straight to Mr. Davies. He listened to 3 of them. His face getting grimmer with each one. "This is it," he said, "this is the whole case. So we just play them in court and it's over?" I asked. He shook his head. "It's not that simple, Benjamin. This isn't TV. We can't surprise them with this. We're legally required to provide all evidence to the other side during what's called discovery. They're gonna get these recordings." My heart sank. "So she'll know." "She'll know," he said. "She and her lawyer will have weeks to prepare for this. They will come up with a story. They will try to twist it. Our job is to make sure the judge sees through the spin and hears the truth." A week later, we submitted the audio files, and sure enough, Christine's lawyer sent back a letter about how the recordings were taken out of context, the words of a concerned daughter. The game was on, but now she knew my hand and the dread was 1,000 times worse. She was so good at twisting things. What if she was good enough to make a judge doubt the truth, even when it was right there? Update 2. The courtroom had that sterile, oppressive feeling. Brown wood paneling, fluorescent lights humming. My side of the aisle was empty. Just me and Mr. Davies. Christine's side was a spectacle. She had Adam, my Uncle Gregory, my cousin Samantha, all of them sitting behind her like a disappointed jury. Christine took the stand first, and her lawyer, knowing he had to get ahead of the voicemails, leaned right into them. "Christine," he began, his voice dripping with sympathy. "We've all heard that you and your mother had some heated conversations. Can you tell the court about that?" She dabbed her eyes. "My mother. I loved her more than anything, but in her last years, she became very difficult, paranoid. I was under enormous stress, and yes, I sometimes lost my patience. I regret my tone, of course I do, but I was just a daughter. Scared and desperate, trying to get through to a mother who was slipping away." She looked at the judge, her eyes pleading. "Those calls, that was my frustration at being shut out. Not malice. It was love. A messy, complicated love. It was brilliant, twisted, but brilliant. She was reframing the abuse as a symptom of her deep tragic love. And I watched the faces of my relatives. They were nodding. They were buying it. I felt this surge of pure panic." Her lawyer finished his questions. "So when you said you would make her regret it, what did you mean?" "I meant she would regret pushing her only daughter away." Christine cried that she would be lonely. "It was awful. I was angry, but I would never ever have harmed her." Mr. Davies stood up. He didn't even cross-examine her. There was no point. She had her story. Instead, he just said, "No questions, Your Honor." Christine looked triumphant. "The defense calls no witnesses," Mr. Davies said calmly. "However, we do wish to play the audio recordings referenced by the plaintiff in their entirety for the court." Christine's lawyer objected as expected, argued they were prejudicial. Judge Miller, a stern-faced woman who looked like she'd heard it all, just waved him off. The plaintiff opened the door to this counselor. She has presented her context. The court will now hear the recordings themselves. Proceed. Mr. Davies connected the phone to the courtroom speakers, and he played them. He started with the clipped angry demands for money. The sound quality was stark. There was no messy love in her tone. It was the sound of a bully. I saw my cousin Samantha shift uncomfortably. Then he played the one where you could hear Grandma's voice, where Christine just shouted her down. And finally, he played the last one, the one from after the will change. Christine's carefully constructed context just evaporated into thin air, replaced by the raw venom in her own voice. "You are a selfish, foolish old woman. You will regret this. I will make you regret this." The courtroom went dead silent. You could feel the air change. This wasn't a heated conversation anymore. This was real. Then came my grandma's tiny shaky voice. "He loves me, Christine. He's here." And Christine's mocking ugly laugh. "He loves your house. You're going to die alone in that house, and I won't be there. Remember that." Click. The silence that followed was absolute. No one was nodding anymore. Samantha had her hand clapped over her mouth, her shoulders shaking. Uncle Gregory was just staring at the floor. They hadn't just heard abuse. They had heard their own judgment proven catastrophically wrong in public. Christine's face was chalk white. Her lawyer's strategy had blown up in his face. I looked at the judge. She had taken her glasses off. She just stared at Christine for a long, quiet moment. Then she looked at the court clerk, her face unwritable. "We will take a 1-hour recess for lunch," she said, her voice completely flat. The gavel tapped lightly. The abrupt cold normality of it was more chilling than any speech could have been. Update 3. That hour-long recess was the most excruciating 60 minutes of my life. I just sat on a bench in the hallway. Mr. Davies told me to stay calm, that he felt good, but I couldn't stop my hands from shaking. When we went back in, the mood was thick with dread. Judge Miller came in, sat down, and got straight to it. "I have reviewed the evidence and the testimony," she said, her voice even. "The plaintiff asserts that the deceased was under undue influence. Her primary evidence for this was her own testimony about her relationship with her mother." She put on her glasses, glanced down at her notes. "The audio recordings present a starkly different reality. They do not depict the daughter's messy love. They depict a pattern of verbal harassment and financial pressure. It is the court's opinion that Catherine Hale was not a confused, vulnerable woman. She appears to have been a woman who knew exactly who her daughter was and took the necessary and frankly logical steps to protect her estate and her chosen heir. She looked right at Christine. The plaintiff's case is hereby dismissed with prejudice. The will is declared valid. I would also advise counsel to have a conversation with his client about the penalties for perjury in this state. That is all. She banged the gavel and it was over. Christine didn't move. Samantha was openly weeping now. Uncle Gregory finally looked at me, his face a mask of shame, before he guided Christine out of the room like a zombie. Later, Samantha texted me. "Benjamin, I am so sorry. I was a fool. I hope one day you can forgive me." I just replied, "I appreciate that, Samantha." I didn't say I forgave her. I don't know if I do. An hour after that, a different text from another cousin who had been on Christine's side. "I hope you're happy now that you've destroyed the family over a house, and that right there, that's the reality of it. The family isn't healed. It's shattered. Some feel guilty, others are angry at me for exposing the truth, and most are just silent, hoping it all goes away. The house is mine. The legal battle is won." Mr. Davy says the judge's comments might trigger an investigation into Christine for elder abuse, but he told me not to hold my breath. It's a high bar. There's no guarantee of any further justice. Winning didn't feel like the movies. There was no triumphant fist pump. It felt like I'd survived a car crash, and now I'm just standing alone in the wreckage. I did what I had to do for Grandma. I defended her. I defended myself. But now I'm sitting here in her quiet house, listening to the humming fridge, and the victory just feels hollow. It cost me my family. It cost me my peace of mind. I have the house. But the quiet feels different now. It's heavier. It's the quiet of the aftermath. The quiet of being right and being completely utterly alone.